Yes. Thank you, Vikas, for joining us on that show. So let's start the interview with the basic question: what is cloud computing?
Yes, Pradeep, thanks for actually having me on the show. Actually, several definitions of cloud computing. I mean, if you bing cloud computing, then at least 22 of them pop up for sure on the theater. So the ones that we actually kind of align to, the one that I kind of got here is the one that I read from Forrester, and it actually talks about standardized IT capabilities such as a software, application platform, or infrastructure that's delivered via internet in a pay-per-use and a self-service fashion. So I mean, it probably brings about most key elements of what cloud computing and cloud services provide. It could be an app, it could be an infrastructure, it could be a platform delivered via internet, self-serve, and has got a different business model around it, available on the web. So I think this is basically something that we have kind of been using as something that kind of defines it in a very comprehensive manner.
So what is Windows Azure?
Well, Windows Azure is one of the three elements of the cloud services that I just mentioned, which is really a platform as a service offer. It's actually an internet scale operating platform on which developers, ISVs, SIs, enterprises can actually build cloud-enabled applications or deploy cloud-enabled applications, which could be delivered in a very scalable, manner. And this service is actually running out of the Microsoft data center. Now, it serves both kinds of applications. It serves applications that are consumer-centric, high internet, high web traffic-centric, and it also serves enterprise scenarios. And there are examples of both of these, and you will find them on the case studies if you go down to azure.com. And there are some case studies which actually talk about this platform having been used in either of these scenarios, consumer-based applications or applications that are meant for businesses. So, in its platform, actually, there are really three things. There is this operating system, which is really the operating system for the web, which is the Windows Azure platform. Then there is a database, the SQL Azure platform, and then there are .NET services which provide the runtime capability for developers to build and deploy these applications. In addition, we've also got a full-blown relational database, which is the Windows Azure SQL database, which actually provides for a highly scalable database environment that actually offers, multi-tenant database instances that developers could use for their applications. And there are a couple of more things that actually are there in Azure, which is, we actually call it the app fabric layers. One is called the access control, which is really about making sure that an Azure-based application gets synchronized or federated with the identity systems that the developers would typically use. So it's basically for authentication through a standard identity system. And the other one is the app fabric services bus, which is really about integrating applications running on-premise as well as in Azure together. So it's basically about putting in homogeneous sets of applications, heterogeneous sets of applications together. So that sort of facilitates some of those hybrid scenarios. So I think these are the four, kind of basic layers of Azure that we have commercially launched now. They're all available today. And we've also launched another service which is codenamed Dallas, which is really under a beta program. We call it CTP here, which is really a place where developers could actually get, high-end content feeds, like for instance weather data, or for instance, topological data, or any other data that they could use for their application. This is really a place where you could have vendors who actually have data content, giving that content out, and developers actually consuming that. So that's something that we've just put out in a technology preview today, and should be commercially launched soon enough.
That was comprehensive enough. So Microsoft is really pressing on the interoperability of the Azure. So could you let us know more about that?
I think it's not just interoperability of Azure. I think Microsoft has been stressing on interoperability, period. I mean, for some time now. I mean, clearly this thing becomes even more important for us to embrace in the context of cloud. And Azure is no different. And Azure being a platform, I think it becomes even more important for us to think very fundamentally about interoperability. So before I move to Azure, I think in general, Microsoft does a lot of work on interoperability, including having our own executive council where we've invited some of our top CIOs worldwide who constantly advise us on what should we do on interoperability. We also participate in several interoperability forums, like there's a Cloud Incubator interoperability forum that Microsoft is a member of, which is primarily focused at interoperable standards for the cloud, that we regularly participate, and we are part of that group of companies that actually are there as a part of this forum. In Azure, as you must have heard, we do provide for SDKs for developers to actually code in different other languages. It doesn't have to be only the .NET languages. So we provide SDKs for Ruby, Python, Java. We've also got Azure tools for Eclipse. So people who are not familiar with the .NET environment in terms of development environment, can still have the ability to build it and then deploy it in Azure. So I think with what we have so far released, there is a fair amount of interoperable scenarios that developers could use using the developer language of their choice and environment of their choice. And this will continue. This is something that we will constantly look to expand in terms of platforms and technologies that Azure use. And of course, it goes without saying that the basic internet platforms that support interoperability, whether it's XML, SOAP, REST, they're all something that are intrinsic to the Azure platform, so it allows for that to happen.
So now to the main question. Microsoft is not charging for the CPU time, but the real time. It is indeed really expensive for SMBs and startups. And the top feature requests on Windows Azure voting forum reflect the same. So how are you going to handle this?
Yeah, I know I've been on the voting forum myself.